The Sun and Moon Pokedex hides a terrible secret, that while I have done videos on other weird and creepy Pokedex entries, the 7th generation is like nothing I've ever seen before, and it's really led to a lot of people doing WTF Pokedex entry videos, but for this one, I want to step it up. I want to take it a little further than just copying the Dorkly list, and also I want to kind of explore some of the other changes in the Pokedex as well, that if you were in the Pokemon Bank, or if you weren't a part of the Alola region, you're just screwed, that there's no other Pokedex entries for Pokemon outside the Alola region, and there's also the inclusion of Mega Pokemon, that there's now entries for Mega Pokemon, and some of them are pretty intense. But then, one of the weirdest, craziest things about this so far is that Pokedex entries just got changes for no reason, that they went from being a little creepy to, come on, that's just unnecessary. Let's take Phantom, for example. According to old tales, these Pokemon are stumps possessed by the spirits of children who died while lost in the forest. I mean, kind of creepy, but Ghost-type Pokemon creepy, it does make a little sense. Let's go and look at the 7th generation update. These Pokemon are stumps possessed by spirits of children who died in the forest. So not even tails anymore, we're just confirming that these are dead children. Awesome. Their cries sound like eerie screams. Why do you have to talk about dead children screaming? That's completely unnecessary, and we see some changes like that. And let's just go into number 10 on this list as well, with Drifloon, which kind of had the same thing happen. That in the 6th generation and all the other generation Pokedex entries for Drifloon seem fairly harmless, you know? It tries to tug on the hands of children, but ends up getting tugged around instead. Also, you know, children sometimes vanish when with a Drifloon, but now in the 7th generation, it's a death sentence. Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. The afterlife means you're dead. It's afterlife. That's not about, you know, just mysterious vanishings or trying to take these children. No, they're just dead instantly. And it dislikes heavy children, so throwing in a little bit of fat shaming as well. If for some reason its body bursts, its soul spills out with a screaming sound. So, the sound of a deflating balloon, while annoying, can also be comical, but not when you see an actual Pokemon, a sentient creature, being destroyed in front of you, and then letting out a screaming sound at something as simple as a balloon popping. Again, a little unnecessary, and just kind of making the Pokedex entry a lot more hardcore than it needs to be. Number 9 is going to be Carbink, and while Carbink's Pokedex entry isn't really anything special, it's the other Pokemon that interact with Carbink that kind of make this Pokemon have a fairly unfortunate life. That we have Sableye. What happens when we have Sableye, this gem-ridden fiend, interacting with Carbink? Well, a fiend of 4 gemstones, so it stalks Carbink. Unfortunately, Gabite almost always grabs them first. Wait, Gabite? Does Gabite's Pokedex entry actually interact with Carbink as well? Well, yes it does. Shiny objects are its passion. It can be found in its cave, scarcely moving. Its gaze fixed on the jewels it is amassed, or Carbink it is caught. So, we have 2 Pokemon that just prey on Carbink, and they can just snatch them up for their own means. And when you look at Gabite, it catches the Carbink, holds them hostage just so it can stare at its pretty gems. So Gabite's actually a pretty interesting dragon because it kind of goes with the dragon's treasure lore and then kind of holds a Pokemon hostage because of it. Okay, number 8 on the list we have Ladian. Now Ladian isn't going to be like creepy, but it's still kind of awkward that in battle it throws punches with all 4 arms. The power of each individual blow is so piddly it aims to win by quantity rather than quality. It's fairly sad that even Game Freak acknowledges Ladian as a fairly useless and weak Pokemon, to the point of actually using the word piddly, which is fairly seldom used, and the fact that the Pokedex entry goes so out of the way to just kind of show this Pokemon's lack of strength, I think that's kind of list-worthy. If not, we can kind of tie in number 8 on this one with Metapod. Metapod, this is a unsettling kind of Pokedex entry. Its shell is filled with its soft innards. It doesn't move much because of the risk it might carelessly spill its innards out. So it can tip over and then its guts fall out and then it dies. That's the life of a Metapod. Way to go! Its shell is hard, but it's still just a bug shell. It's been known to break, so intense battles with it should be avoided. Man, if you're just a careless new trainer that caught a Caterpie and wants to try to grind it up and get a Butterfree, or at least have some kind of strong Pokemon, your Metapod is going to die, and trying to avoid intense battles, that's fairly difficult. Have you seen the Metapod versus Metapod matchup? That's one of the most intense Pokemon battles I've seen in my entire life. It's amazing that both of them ended up surviving. As for number 7 on this list, time to talk about some Mega Pokemon. They were mentioned earlier, and let's talk about Mega Salamence. Both of the Pokedex entries are pretty ridiculous. Anyone standing in its path gets sliced right in two. What? We're talking about things getting sliced in two in Pokemon? Well, it has happened in the past with the Pokemon manga, but still, that's not some imagery that you want. That's a Salamence. Salamence just slicing things right in two. Mega Evolution fuels its brutality as well. It may even turn on the trainer who raised it. It's been dubbed the Blood-Soaked Crescent. So it slashes through things, spilling its blood, killing them, and then just being the Blood-Soaked Crescent of death, and it can even kill its trainer because of its intense power and rage. That's kind of ridiculous. Now, to take this a step further, I want to try to see how fast this Pokemon can potentially go, and Dragonite can actually be a good backdrop for this. Dragonite is capable of circling the globe in just 16 hours. Now, that's well over the speed of sound, considering that's 16 hours and then going almost 25,000 miles in that 16 hours. And look at Dragonite. It's a fairly plumpy Pokemon. And then you look at Mega Salamence, and it looks like it's evolved for speed. That's about as aerodynamic as it gets. So it's effectively like a fighter jet just kind of slicing you in half, or any other Pokemon, or anything in its way. That is not right. Number 6 on the list is going to be Shiinotic. Shiinotic is a fairly messed up Pokemon as well. Forests where Shiinotic live are treacherous to enter at night. People confused by its strange lights can never find their way home again. Also, it emits flickering spores that cause drowsiness. When prey succumb to sleep, the Pokemon feeds on them by sucking their energy. And then it also just looks like a creepy alien mushroom, but that explains a lot. Maybe that could be a reason why there's so many Phantump in the world, that you get lost in the forest as a child because of a Shiinotic, and there's a Phantump, they get more Trevenant protecting the forest. The cycle of life continues, but still, Shiinotic, it's creepy looking, and its Pokedex doesn't make it any better, and it wants to steal your energy while putting you to sleep. Okay then, number 5 on the list is going to be Primeape. Primeape is kind of simple. It is known to become so angry that it dies as a result. Its face looks rather peaceful in death, however. I mean, just going with the peaceful while dead cliche, and then, could you just imagine getting so angry that you die? Well, I mean, I guess it happens with like heart attacks and stuff, but that's Primeape's life. It's angry, and it has a lot of anger, and if it can't control the anger, it's at risk of dying. Also, looking at Mankey's Pokedex entry doesn't make it any better. Its raging tires it out and causes it to fall asleep, but the anger resonating in its dreams causes it to wake up, which infuriates it all over again. So it's an endless cycle of rage that these Pokemon live as until they eventually just die. That kind of actually might explain why there's so many dislikes on all my videos. I'm thinking that maybe Smogon should try to change their mascot from Coughing into a Mankey. I think it would make a lot more sense. Now that we're on to number 4, let's talk about Oricoreo's Sensu form. You don't think that Oricoreo is going to be that intimidating or crazy of a Pokemon, but this thing actually raises the dead. It summons the dead with its dreamy dancing. From their malice, it draws power which to curse its enemies. So there's actually a legit Necromancer Pokemon in the game, and so unsuspecting. And it also takes the hatred, the malice of that being's death, and then uses it for its own energy to curse others to their doom. That's pretty intense. Now, one thing that did come to mind is that if the Pokemon Adventures manga does not take advantage of this and then do something like it did in the original series with like all the Pokemon being resurrected at the Pokemon Tower, I am going to be very disappointed. So there's a lot of cool story points for Oricoreo as well. And who would have thought this would all have been from Oricoreo? It doesn't really stand out, yet it has one of the more eerie Pokedex entries that kind of gets pretty intense. Number 3 on the list is going to be Hypno. Hypno is a dangerous Pokemon. The Pokedex entry even says it. While it is seen as an extremely dangerous Pokemon, people who are in need of good sound sleep call it their savior. As a matter of course, it makes anyone it meets fall asleep and has a taste of their dreams. Anyone having a good dream, it carries off. So it just straight up steals you if it likes your dream. That means you say, hey Hypno, boom, you're asleep. It goes and goes, that's a good dream. Oh, I want to have this dream more often. I want to taste. I want to eat these dreams more. And then just picks you up and carries you off because you're still asleep. You're helpless. And then I was thinking about the official Pokemon merchandise that has Hypno inside of it, and it kind of makes sense that Hypno is a kidnapping Pokemon. We kind of see this in the anime. This is from the first generation Pokemon, was a bit more edgy and hardcore back then, and it looks like the 7th generation is bringing that one back in style. Also, going back to that first Pokedex entry, kind of sounds like they're using Hypno as a dangerous drug. Hypno, have a good night's sleep. Side effects may include nausea, depression, nightmares, abduction. but people still take the risk anyways, so who am I to know about the world of pharmaceuticals? Number 2 on the list is going to be Palossand. Not only is the official artwork for Palossand about as creepy as it gets, the Pokedex entry isn't much better. Also going into like Sandygast, the whole thing is just like a possessed sandcastle. Possessed people controlled by this Pokemon transform its sand into a castle. As it evolved, the power to curse grew even stronger. So yeah, it just says, hey kids, you want to go and build a sandcastle? You know, it just possesses them and makes it bigger and stronger. And also buried beneath the castle are masses of dried up bones from those whose vitality it has drained. So it sucks you in to its sandcastle, and then you're dead. Palossand is a giant burial mound with bones and remains inside of it. Just how that it can exist in Pokemon and just be so upfront and blunt about it is a reason why it's number 2 on the list. It's pretty simple, but the more you think about it, just the more haunting it becomes, and that's Palossand for you. So now it's time for number 1 on the list, and even though this kind of feels like cheating, it's just the entirety of Mega Evolution. As we've talked about, there are some Mega Evolution entries, there are some pretty crazy Mega Evolution entries, but just the dichotomy. You expect Mega Evolution to be like unlocking this bond with your Pokemon, kind of taking it to the next level. We saw this with Pokemon Origins, we saw this with the story in X and Y, that's supposed to be about you and your Pokemon making each other stronger because of it, but it's actually a complete nightmare for the Pokemon. We have Mega Gyarados. Mega Evolution also affects its brain, leaving no other function except its destructive instinct to burn everything to cinders. Mega Aerodactyl, when it Mega Evolves, it becomes more vicious than ever before. Some say that's because its excess of power is causing it pain. Mega Lucario is even called Heartless. With all of, like, the shipping going on with Lucario and all the people that love this Pokemon, can even see, like, its passion, its loyalty in the anime and through the movies and stuff. No, when it Mega Evolves, it becomes a brutal, heartless Pokemon, and you can even sense that it has that pain inside of it because of the evolution. But then Glalie. Glalie is almost heartbreaking. The excess energy from Mega Evolution spilled over from its mouth, breaking its jaw. It spews endless blizzards. It tries to consume its frozen foes that get instantly frozen while inside of its mouth, but its jaw is broken, so it cannot consume those Pokemon. The excess energy that bathes this Pokemon keeps it in constant danger of overflow. It can't sustain a battle over long periods of time. It's too much energy. Mega Evolution creates too much energy and actually puts Pokemon in pain from the amount of power. There is nothing good about Mega Evolution from these Pokedex entries that we can see. That a Salamence, no matter how much it loves its trainer, can become enraged and then slice its trainer in two. Pretty much, no matter what, like death. That death is left in the wake of a Mega Evolved Pokemon, and it experiences insane amounts of pain as well. And then we also have Kangaskhan. Thanks to Mega Evolution, its child grows, but as a child is good at only fighting and nothing else, its mother feels uneasy about its future. That's unfortunate. That's why I just have, like, even with the introduction of all these Mega Evolution Pokedex entries, kind of shows the darker side of Mega Evolution that we've never seen before, and all of them are just too insane to really leave off the list, so has to be number 1. It's truly unexpected from what we see out of Mega Evolutions, and it's also terrible, tragic, and just insanely WTF. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video with all of the insane Pokedex entries that we have for the 7th generation. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.